Here's your update on the Alligator Alcatraz case. There's a detention center in the Everglades in Florida. I promised to update you on the developments. There was a hearing yesterday, August 6th, regarding the environmental groups, including the Friends of the Everglades, request that the judge overseeing the case, Judge Kathleen Williams, pauses all future construction. And the Center for Biodiversity, along with the Friends of the Everglades, filed a lawsuit. And during the hearing, the executive director of the Friends of the Everglades, Eve Samples, testified that the federal government failed to do the proper environmental impact assessment and review that's required when the federal government creates or constructs, does a project that may impact the environment. On cross-examinations, the lawyers for the state of Florida and for the government, because they sued the United States government, asked her if she had filed a lawsuit against the airport that the facility currently, built on top of, and she said no. And then there was an attempt to try to drag it into immigration, and the judge, who, if I told you before, if you follow me, my name is JJ Legal on social media. I am helping people understand the lawsuits filed against the Trump administration. And in previous videos, I shared that Kathleen Williams is one of very few judges that has actually issued civil contempt against a Trump ally. And in that case, it was the Florida Attorney General who was trying to go over her order, blocking the police from doing immigration enforcement, which is against the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. So she's a bulldog. She's not the person that they wanted to draw. And she got this case after a magistrate judge and two district court judges, or two magistrate judges, one district court judge had to recuse himself. So really great draw. But in any event, she said, we're only talking about environmental here. Also, who testified during the hearing is Florida State Rep Anna Eskamani, who testified that she did one of the tours, because remember, the representatives from the state of Florida, including the House of Representatives in Florida, had attempted to tour the facility, and they were initially turned away because they were trying to clean things up. But she said that when she attended, that Kevin Guthrie, who was the Division of Emergency Management Director, told the people on the tour that the facility was going to hold 4,000 detainees by the end of August, and that the center had about 1,000 workers, some of them who lived at the facility, others that commuted. And the Amber Crooks, who was a member of the Center for Biological Diversity, said that she saw no review notice that the detention center had opened because federal law requires there to be a public review whenever you do these things. So as I say before, the Trump administration, the reason why their decisions get pulled back and they get overruled and stopped and enjoined and blocked from doing the things is because they fail to follow the basic procedures that usually required in law. They're lawless because United States and most countries are countries of law. That's how we organize. That's how we have processes and procedures. And they just jump over the process and procedures. They don't do what they're supposed to do. They do whatever they're going to do in violation and hope it works out in the end. And it never does. And then when it doesn't work out, the MAGA or their sycophants or their loyalists or their cult members will go and attack the judges for doing what they're supposed to do. I say this over and over again. In any event, the construction of the detention center is under federal control. There had been attempts from the Trump administration to say this is a state entity. During the hearing, it was reiterated again by the plaintiffs in the case, the environmentalists, that every aspect of this center is federally operated and run. It's immigration. There are people who are detained under immigration law, which is a federal thing there. There are ICE trucks outside, and it's every bit of a federal entity, including the fact that Kristi Noem and Donald Trump and all of the folks involved with this had already said that our tax dollars are going to reimburse the states for doing this. So essentially, if you're going to reimburse it, it's a federal thing, and they started it because of the federal thing. So it's going to be hard for them to get over that. So what they're trying to do is remove it and get a better judge. So they're trying to say they want to remove it to the central district because technically the facility is located in Collier County, and they said that's where it should be. And the plaintiffs are saying, well, a lot of decisions, most of this is actually in Miami-Dade, and it should be there. So that's what right now they're discussing, whether or not Judge Kathleen should be able to retain jurisdiction for where she's located, or whether she should pass it on to another judge. And she's still making that decision. That she didn't decide whether or not to close it off outright. I think it's because she doesn't want to make that decision if she determines that she doesn't have proper jurisdiction and it should be in the hands of another judge. So I think that's why she's waiting to make that decision. There's supposed to be a subsequent hearing August 18th regarding those folks who are saying that the detainees didn't get proper procedures. They were denied due process. They didn't get the chance to see a lawyer. There were no charges formally brought against them. So there's just a lot of lawlessness about this. I've seen media reports recently that said that the facility is just a filth. It's just really disgusting. It's inhumane, and it should be shut down, if not for just environmental reasons, if not just because they denied due process, but also because it's inhumane garbage. But everything this administration does shows that they have blatant disregard for human beings, especially if those human beings are black and brown. Now, once in a while, still I see a few people saying, stop saying it's racist, stop saying what the hell ever, because right now there are about 600,000 undocumented visa overstays from Europe all over the United States, and we know where they are because there are pockets of those communities, and the Trump administration is not going after them because he's really happy with white immigrants. The fact that he tried to bust in a bunch of them from South Africa, claiming they're subject to nothing he says is true. One guy gets attacked in D.C., could get irrespective of all the attacks that happen and all over the nation, the way his administration has attacked and seriously harmed many people. But one guy gets attacked. So sadly, he got attacked in D.C. All of a sudden, he wants to take over home rule. The man is just a nut. So I digress. That's my hat. I digress. Get my I digress hat. At jjlegal.com. You can get my merch. But so that's what happened. The lawsuit continues. I'm really disappointed that it hasn't been shut down. I anticipate it will be shut down because they did not go by any of the rules of the law, and it's just a freaking mess. However, another thing is that Ron DeSantis says that they're creating a new facility in the Northern Detention Facility. This is all just a part of the Great White Replacement Theory, I think, the belief that the country is becoming browner, and the more that people come in from various different ways, immigrate from various, whether it's temporary protective status, whether it's people already here, whether it's international students that come in, sometimes meet somebody and never leave, whether it is through refugees, whether it's through visitor programs, however it is that the country is becoming browner and browner, and there's a fear that as it becomes browner and browner, those people are going to align themselves with the Democratic Party, and at some points it's going to be diluted. There's already studies that say by 2035 or 2050, the majority group in the United States are going to be Latinos, Hispanic. So all of this is just an attempt to stop the inevitable. And there's also a fear, I believe, that the people, when the country becomes majority minority, that's gonna impact, and I don't know what they feel, that perhaps they feel like those marginalized oppressed groups are gonna turn a favor. I don't know, and that's the other reason why I believe they're trying to scale back and do these redistricting and try to dilute people's power, because as more of these people come and they get more political power, they start taking seats, and they see the end of their party. They see the extinction of Republicans and everything they represent going away in short order. And it starts and ends with just America being what it started to be, a nation of immigrants. But when the immigrants were just different variations of white Europeans, it was fine. Now that the immigrants and the people that are making up the United States are quite diverse and perhaps made up of a lot of people of color, now we have a problem. Now we have to stop it. That's really what's going on. And I fight me on that, because it's really hard to debate that. It walks like a duck. It talks like a duck. It's a duck. This is really the Great White Replacement Theory. Just like fighting that. I don't know. Let's discuss. What do you think, JJ Legal? Well, that's your update. I'll let you know what goes on if she rules in which I know a lot of people. I was driving in my neighborhood and I saw some folks with the Alligator Alcatraz, and it's all the way in Maryland. So this is a national issue. A lot of people care about this. You care about this. JJ Legal, each one teach one. Follow along. Share this video with other people who care about this. Share my account. Let them know that I'm keeping up with it. And yeah. And I'll see you in the next video. You can check out a playlist here. I'll put here so you can keep learning.